Good afternoon, everybody. We have a quorum. So because we have a quorum, I call this meeting of the Allocations Committee to order at 4:31 p.m. I have a very hard time seeing you guys because of the setup here at City Hall. So you might have to really work to get my attention when you want to make a comment. And everybody in the room is going to help me, but the screens are smaller here, and so it's harder for me to see.
We'll monitor, online gallery. If you can just raise your hand, we'll monitor it and then we'll let you know if someone has their hand raised.
Thank you. I don't want to leave anybody out. We have a really full, meaty agenda today. So we want to get started. And the first item on our voting agenda is the approval of the May 7th Allocations Committee meeting minutes.
I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
We have a motion from Commissioner Trezella. Do we have a second? Guys, there's nobody in the room with me, so it's up to you guys.
I second.
Thank you. We have a second from Commissioner Valentine. All in favor? Or what? Is there any discussion? Yeah.
My name is spelled wrong again.
Somebody got a note on that?
Yes, we will get that correct.
We can correct that after the fact, even after the vote, correct?
Yes.
Do we need to make a move to it? Do we need to amend the motion or change the motion? To correct this one? Okay. So we need either a motion to amend or a withdrawal of the motion and redo the process with the motion to accept the minutes with the corrected spelling of Commissioner Valentine's name.
I will withdraw my motion and resubmit a motion to accept the minutes as presented and with the correction of Commissioner Valentine's name spelling.
Thank you, Commissioner Trezella. Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a second from Commissioner Valentine. Is there any further discussion?
Chair,
I sure hope not.
All in
this
favor?
is Chair, this is Tino.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Holomo.
Jay Damani's name is in both places.
I'm sorry, what do you mean by both places? But it's both
Present and absent.
Both present and absent.
Oh, it is.
Does anybody know what's supposed to be correct?
Well, he was with me for the Halpern VIP, so.
He was absent. He was absent.
Okay, Commissioner Trezella, you're up again.
All right, let's try this again.
Wait, before you do that, is there any further discussion? Just what I should have said before the first time. Okay.
I withdraw that motion and resubmit a new motion to accept the minutes as presented with the correction of Commissioner Valentine's name and Commissioner Damali, remove him from president.
Second.
Right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposition? The motion has passed unanimously. Okay, now we go to the briefing next, right?
We're actually going to vote on.
We're gonna vote on the reallocations. Do we have to vote on it?
Yeah. It's just-
Yeah. Okay, so our next voting item is the Community Artist Program reallocations. You'll recall that about this time of year, we look at whether or not everyone has spent their allocated money and make adjustments accordingly. And at this point, I am going to recognize Julia to provide us a briefing on this, and then we will vote.
Hi, everybody. Great to see you. The Community Artist Program, just as a brief recap, for CAP. Sorry, it was right there. This is the program that pairs artists with hosts in our community for public events that the community suggests to us. We send in artists and we pay them. So CAP artists are selected to be on the roster once a year. And when given a roster placement, they're also given, if you think about it, sort of like a checking account with a set amount of money in it. And that amount of funding is reserved and assigned to that artist. And then when they go and are booked or reserved for an event, we pull from their specific quote unquote checking account until they're done. We look for them to be looking for bookings so that we can draw from that account for them. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so CAP artists are responsible for marketing their own programs to receive their bookings. But if someone says, I'm having this wonderful event and I don't have a specific artist in mind, we can help, especially if artists still have a bunch in their account, we can help steer them with somebody who would be a great fit. So by this point in the year, which is April 15 in our guidelines, we hope that artists will have at least spent about 40% of their award. Ideally, halfway through the year, halfway through the award, but some folks have different seasonality for their awards, that kind of thing. So the guidelines state that after May 15th, OAC can reallocate some of the reserve funds for artists who haven't spent any or haven't spent very much at all to make sure that we spend every dollar from this program. So basically, we pull some out of some folks' debit accounts to other folks who have spent it all so that we make sure that overall for the CAP program, we're spending every dollar that is reserved for this program. Okay. So in past years, we do it like this. We calculate the minimum amount that artists should have spent by May 15th. And typically we expect artists to have spent half of it. Since this year started a little late for some folks due to compliance checks, we're looking for 40%. So if artists have already booked at least 40% of their award, including events that haven't happened yet, so they haven't been paid, but we knew about them. We looked at if you have either been paid or you're definitely going to be paid, at least 40% of your award, we left all of your funding assigned to you. So out of our folks, that is the vast majority. That is 52 out of 65 artists that we're really not talking about today because they have already booked out 40% of their award or more. If an artist had not booked out at least this much, i.e. they haven't booked anything, or they've booked very few events, if any at all, we reallocate some of their award, assuming that they will not be able to get to that 100% by the end of the year. So this year, we're removing up to 40% that they should have spent, which still leaves that artist with 60% of their original award. It just frees up that first 40% to go to other artists who may already be out. So this is the same process as in past years, and artists already know how to expect this. And in fact, we're waiting on it. So here's what we're doing differently this year. Rather than moving funds specifically out of one artist account and into another artist account, what we're going to do is make sort of a shared unassigned fund so that artists who are out can spend down the unassigned fund without it being designated to a very specific person. This is slightly more paperwork on our end, which is why we haven't done it this way before. But the reason that it's still, I think, the best choice today is because it increases our potential to use every dollar of this program. And it incentivizes all artists to keep booking through the year, including artists who maybe didn't spend up to 40%. If they start really booking it this summer, they too might be eligible to grab some of those funds back. So I think overall, this is a more fair way to do it, especially because if you look on the next slide, we're not really talking about all that much money. So here's the math of this. 52 artists we're not talking about because they've already spent at least 40%. So they're not moving. They're going to keep all their assigned awards. 14 artists have not spent 40%. So their funding will be decreased to that amount, like to the amount we need them to have spent by now, which is that 40%. Those total dollars are $24,875. That means the amount out of our total budget that is left in people's specific assigned bank accounts is $545,900. Everybody with me so far? Okay, so the amount removed in total is $24,875. Of this, Rhonda the magician is really good at this. Rhonda's been doing this for years and years and years and already knew that we were gonna have about this much to reallocate because she's magic. So she had already started awarding some folks that were out of funds really early to continue to complement those. So she had already spent $13,000 of our quote unquote reallocated fund on people so that we could continue booking in the community. Additionally, we also over-awarded over our budget. We awarded $557,500 for CAP when our budget for this program, according to the general fund, is $550. So we look at this little table with the yellow on the right. We pulled about $25,000 away out of individual accounts because they hadn't spent their 40. But now we got to take out again funds that we had already given back. So that's 13,000 minus the extra 7,500 we'd already awarded. So the only unassigned budget I'm really talking about is $4,100. That's it. So that's why I'm suggesting we don't go just to individual people, because lots of folks may want access to that $4,100. So what we're going to do with it is make it an unassigned fund where we will book 1 hour booking events for those who are out, and we'll go on a first come, first serve basis until we're out. And when we're out of that unassigned fund. If we find that people still haven't spent down all their award by August and we have enough money to sort of do this again, maybe to an 80% mark, we can. The guidelines specify we really need to do it halfway through the year, but if we find that we can do it again towards the end of the year, we will.
So what we will be, first we'll take questions, and then following questions, what we will be concerned with is a motion to accept the staff recommendation regarding reallocations of CAP funds. So let's start with questions for Julia, and then once we get those answered, we can entertain a motion, and if we have any further discussion, we'll take care of it after that. I think I saw Commissioner Trezilla hand go up first.
Yeah. So I don't have any problem. I really do like the pull it from a bank account. I'm more concerned with why, and it's been a minute since I've looked at this, but why did we over award by $7,500? Because we could be in the reverse situation where we didn't have enough money.
Right. It's because Rhonda has been doing this for so long and knows these artists so well that this happens every year. And the amount that this happens is usually about the same. And so she basically prepared for that in advance by giving people the benefit of the doubt of a larger award, knowing that folks may not spend it. So it was a case of really, really knowing this program well, that we felt comfortable enough to do that. But also, from my perspective of just where the city is and where we need to be on budget, I want to be to the dollar correct and stay at that 550, which is why we also, for round 3 Arts Activate, we're to the dollar correct, and we didn't spend any dollars over that either.
And I'll just add, this may be what Julia just said, but historically, we've never had a moment where we've overspent it accidentally. So we're really hoping, especially since we don't see the budget growing, we want to make sure we spend every penny that we can.
Yep.
Every penny that's allocated. Commissioner Daniel.
Regardless of the reason and how we got here, I like this going into a general fund. I know general fund has City Hall, I don't mean general fund, but I like it going, there we go. I like it going into that because I do think that it just gives us more flexibility and it puts us in a better position. And it also means, to your point, that if the person that the money was taken away from, they still technically could get access to it. If they go on a booking rip, on a booking tear, then it still works out. So I'm a huge fan. Like when I was reading that in the briefing materials, I actually was like, ooh, I like that. So this is just the general, I like it. And I'm happy that we got here, however we got here.
I think Commissioner Daniel, this falls under the topics of continued new improvement developments from our staff virtually every single time we meet. I don't see any other hands up. Any further questions? Commissioner Jackson.
No, I don't have a question, but I basically wanted to second Commissioner Daniel. I love this. This is great. when you said, as soon as she said what the plan was, it's excellent.
If there aren't any further questions, I can entertain a motion at this time.
Madam Chair, I would like to submit a motion that we accept the staff's recommendation to reallocate the CAP funds into an unassigned fund that can be used for all artists.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A second from, I think I had both Commissioner Daniel and Commissioner Truzilla seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposition? The motion has passed unanimously. Thank you very much. We now move into the briefing section of our agenda. You'll notice that on our agenda, there are, let's see, 1, 2, is there a third one? No, the 2 briefing topics related to COP. Just a quick reminder about where we are on COP. Applications are in, panel reviews have been done, and so what staff is coming to us with now is a general overview and what we can expect. So I want to prepare you in advance. There are a lot of specifics that we don't have right now. So if we can move through this agenda by asking questions that are related to the big general way that it's being done, because we don't have those detailed answers that you want right now, like, do we have enough money to bring in any new organizations and things like that? We don't have those answers yet. You will have them at our next meeting, but we want everybody to be able to start thinking about what we're likely to see on our first scenario. So with that, I'm going to ask Julia to take the floor and correct anything that I said that was incorrect before you start, and we'll move forward with, but we'll probably pause between A and B to give you an opportunity to ask questions.
Perfect. And just before we leave that, I'm the CAP reallocation. I do want to say a special thank you to Rhonda's fabulous team. If you've worked with Liz and Zoe before, you know how wonderful they are at doing this, and they did a lot of that behind the scenes. And in fact, I think came up with that idea that Glenn fast tracked, because it was really good. So if you see Liz and Zoe, please give them a high five and a hug too, because they have been working really, really hard on this program behind the scenes. Okay, COP. So this briefing A is about our panel, how this worked when we only had 5 new organizations. So just wanted to talk you through what this looked like, because it was different than in past years, and sort of give you an overview of what I think we're going to see in the next couple months. So as a review, especially for commissioners that this might be your first COP rodeo, welcome. This program basically runs all year until we start the application for the next one. So March through October every year, we're working on the application for the new one. And then November to March, we're trying to get everybody's contracts together, and then we open it again. So it's sort of an all year cycle. But this selection process, organizations applied in April. There was a panel review process in April. Their panel read the 5 applications, and May 14th was the panel sort of super day that I'll explain in a second. In June, we are working hard now to start compiling those administrative scores so that I can bring those to you, at least the start of them, in our next meeting, whenever that is. We talk about it in July. Y'all point me in the right direction so that by the time we get to September, we can vote both with your committee and with the full Arts and Culture Advisory Commission. Then in October, we take it to Quality of Life and City Council in either the last vote in October or the first one in November. So here's what this year's looked like. There were 70 applications. Applications opened March 3rd, closed April 10th. We got 70 of them. Everybody submitted on-time applications, which may not sound like a big deal, but I've been here 3 or 4 runs at this, and I have had only 1 year that has actually happened, that all returning organizations got everything in on time. So that's actually pretty huge. And thank you to all of you who helped your organization, your liaison organization, make that happen. We also received applications from 5 new participants. They were AT&T Performing Arts Center in Tier 6, the Dallas Film Festival in Tier 2, the Greater Dallas Children's Chorus in Tier 3, Oaklawn Band Tier 1, and Thanksgiving Square Foundation in Tier 3. How the panels worked. So a panel of 8 folks participated. It was 9 in the room. I did go ahead and remove one panelist who had some confusion because she had served as an Arts Activate panelist before and did not realize that they were unique. So she hadn't had a chance to review all of the applications in advance of the Q&A. So I did go ahead and remove those scores. But the remaining 8 included 2 representatives from current returning COP organizations, which I think is great because they've seen what this application feels like in the back end, and they're not competing, quote unquote, against these new organizations. They just have really good context of what this program involves. We had development professionals from other funding institutions, including the State Fair and the Communities Foundation of Texas. We had professional artists, and we had a panelist who has served for us now every single round the past 2 years that we found because of a flyer at the Oak Cliff Cultural Center. So several people that are really passionate about our work from a variety of different perspectives, which I'm really proud of. They did a really, really thoughtful job. I'll show you some examples of the kinds of questions they were asking in a moment. This year, normally when we give a panel, actually, we go back, Dre, one more. Normally when we give a panel, all of the panelists will read applications of the same revenue size. This year, that wasn't going to work because we had 5 applicants that were in tiers 1, 2, 3, and 6. So there was really no efficient way to have somebody look at only one funding tier. That just wouldn't have made sense. So what we did was I had them read the 5 applications, and in their orientation, before they came in, we specifically told them, please grade to the rubric, not each other. Then 15 minutes before each organization entered the virtual Q&A, the panel discussed some of the current peer awardees of that applicant organization and sort of gathered their questions for the organization before they came in the room. Then each organization received 10 minutes of Q&A time, and some of them followed up by email if they didn't get a chance to finish one of their questions or needed to look something up. So here's oh, sorry, Glenn.
I'm so sorry. I'm feeling tremendously ill. So I'm going to leave.
Yep.
Sorry.
Feel better.
Let me know if you need
Feel better.
anything.
Yep.
Thanks.
Here's what this looked like for Oaklawn Band, just as an example, and we did this for everybody. So Oaklawn was in tier 1. So we said, here's the revenue range for tier 1. Oaklawn is right at the beginning at 121,000. And here's all the organizations that had you been in this panel last year in an on year, here's everybody that would have been their counterpart. And specifically, Dre, if you go to the next slide, please, ma'am. Thank you so much. This is a map of where everybody falls in terms of how many events they do in a year and about how many people they serve. So on average, tier 1 organizations estimate serving approximately 9,500 people through 350 events this year. That's what's in the scope of work that all of these organizations have signed with us. The median is about 5,600 people, and the minimum is about 700 people through 145 events. Oaklawn Band, as you can see with their green star little there, is right on the line at 5,200 people through 115 events. So this is just sort of a map of where they fall in terms of their counterparts. And then we showed them 2 example scopes of work. One from an organization that does services that are pretty close as I could get to the applicant organization, which in this case is basically Beethoven. Some of y'all that have been here for a minute may remember them as fine arts chamber players. And we gave them what, in a nutshell, is in their scope of work with our contract, and then what we contract them for, which is free concerts, music residencies, private and group lessons, and PhD. And then I pulled somebody who'd been in the program a while, which in this case is Anita Martinez Ballet Folklorico, and did the same thing, a snapshot of their scope and what exactly are the programs that we contract this organization for. And then we got together and said, okay, panel, what questions would you like to ask? What do you think is missing in the organization? What do you need additional help to be able to score effectively. And these are some examples of the questions that they would ask. Like, who are your community partners? What are your organization's goals? Can you clarify how you measure and define success? Do you have a plan for growth? What does that look like? And then the organization would come in the room and we'd have those 10 minutes with them. After those 10 minutes were over, I asked every single time in the exact same wording to be extra clear with people. Do we recognize this group? Do we recommend this group for funding? Here's exactly what I asked and how I asked it. Dre, if you don't mind going next. Yeah. This is the program by which we contract for cultural services with established Dallas-based nonprofit organizations for a season of cultural programming, for the benefit of Dallas residents and visitors. If funded through this program, this organization would be required to present, publicize, and operate a Dallas-based season. Based on this description and the information given to you in the application and Q&A, do you believe that this organization should receive funding through this program? And that's all she wrote. We rinsed and repeated 5 more times for all of the organizations. And I'm not going to go through every slide of this because I don't think that's a great use of your time, but you can, I left them here in case anybody is interested and wants to see them. This is what we did for every new organization. So as a result of this, sort of how this shook out, Dre, if you don't mind skipping ahead to slide 28, there's like a chart at the end of this. Grand. Okay. Here's how this shook out. And again, as your wonderful chair was saying, these are very raw numbers. But on average, we saw scores between 49 and 63, which is honestly really close to what I would have seen in past years. Those are these panelists were on it. The range, the difference between the highest and lowest panelist scores, the reason I put that there is because that means how much did our panelists agree with each other? The smaller the range, the more we agree. And so usually I don't ask a ton of follow-up questions about that. The ones that have really large ranges, I make sure that we have lots and lots of notes because that means some panelists were great lovers of it and some not so much. This votes for adding to the program section, that is exactly what were the results of the questions that were on that slide. Because I think that's, while we don't give it score weight, I really think that's helpful to you as a committee to kind of see where the panel's heads were when they were listening to these. And then this outcome, this is my rough outcome with no admin scores included. So going through each organization, I think that the 2 organizations that really knocked it out of the park that I expect, if their admin scores match, we are going to see them line up with their peers really nicely. And you'll see the panel was really unanimous that the Greater Dallas Choral Society and AT&T Performing Arts Center do all of the things and are ready to be in COP right now. We had unanimous votes for that. The range wasn't huge and their scores were pretty high. Notably, Greater Dallas Choral Society has been an Arts Activate member for a while, so they have over the last 3 years been in several contracts with us, so they sort of know the drill too. Oaklawn Band and Dallas International Film Festival, I wouldn't be surprised if their admin scores were also pretty high that would put them in the same place as some peers. There were panelist notes for both of these organizations, with some that were hesitant for reasons that have to do. I have pretty detailed notes for both of these, and I'll share out when we get to the admin sections. You'll get a packet of the notes too. But in general, it has to do with outreach, operational efficiency, and on a Dallas-based program, and a couple of other pieces that they were pretty thoughtful. The 3 that dissented, they were not the same 3 for those 2 organizations. They were different people. But everybody was pretty thoughtful, and it was a not yet, not a full no on those organizations. So I wouldn't be surprised if either of them also were fairly in line with some of our others. The one I would be surprised, and I think is likely ineligible for funding based on the score, is Thanksgiving Square. The panel was pretty unanimous that this application did not fit this funding program this time. But again, that'll be an organization that we can go back to with lots of really great notes and thoughtful remarks from the panel that hopefully we'll be able to see them again in future years.
Okay, questions?
Trizilla has her hand up.
Commissioner Trizilla? Nope.
You answered it.
Okay. Anyone else? Any questions? I have a quick one. How do you feel about, since we're as we roll this new program out, how do you feel about how well this worked in terms of accomplishing the goals when we decided to go into the 3
Oh, I'm really happy with that. I really think we had a longer orientation session than usual with the panel. I really thoughtfully cherry picked this panel because a lot more people applied than just 9. Like I could put together, it wasn't all, I could create that group of these artistic disciplines and this experience, brand new panelists coming back. And I really think they did a fabulous job. And what I'm hearing from returning organizations is it was a very helpful breather not to have to do the whole application every year. So I don't know how this is going to go, as this is my first time too, but so far it has accomplished what we really hoped to.
Commissioner Spellacy.
I was actually just curious if there was anything from this round, since it was a little different than we've done before, that you anticipate using in the full round next year.
I really would like to add the votes for adding to the program and sort of laying out I think laying out the map actually could be really helpful of events versus just showing people a picture and then asking them to vote at the end. I think in a full year, we still really want to have panelists only read the same revenue size because it is hard to jump mentally. But I'd really like to keep the picture part and I'd really like to add you have to say yes or no. There was no maybe. You could not sit on the fence. You had to give me an answer today and back it up. And I think that was really helpful to give you the additional context, even if one panel like happened to grade harder than another panel, that would still stand.
Any further questions before we move on to our next briefing item? This one is also, Julia, we're going to get a preview of the 26-27 COP scoring process.
Valentin raised his hand.
Oh, who did?
Valentin.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. We're going to back up for a moment. We had a comment or question from Commissioner Valentin.
Thank you, Chair. This is regarding Thanksgiving Square Foundation. How will they be notified, or have they been notified?
Yeah, so we will get a little further in this process. I will get them fully scored. So they will have I'll do it as though they're going to run through the whole thing with us. I will give, so that in the fall, in September, we give everybody an award letter. And basically their letter will say, you are not being considered by City Council for funding this year. So what they will get is a 1-hour conversation with me that they'll schedule, or other OAC staff if they want to talk to Glenn and Martine. They'll get a scorecard that has all the comments from their panel. They're considered public record, as well as all the scores in all their categories. And they can have a conversation with staff about what to do if they choose to reapply. So they'll find out in September with an official letter.
And just a reminder on that, we can kind of see where things are going from the information that Julia's given us, but no decision has been made, no recommendation has been made by this committee yet. No recommendation has been taken to the commission yet. So this is information that you would not be speaking with these organizations about until we get completely through the process. And I'm sure you can see the problems with that because we are in the middle of a process and we can't speak with these organizations and talk to them about what they did well or didn't do well until we find out whether they're being recommended for an award or not, even if we can kind of look at it and see what's likely to happen. So you know, all of this information is available in the context of a public meeting, but this is not a time to be counseling with these organizations until we're finished with the process. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay, any other questions on briefing agenda item A before we move to B? Julia.
Okay. This one is much faster. This is just a reminder of what's coming this summer. Everybody else does not have a panel score because they did not go to panel this May. So there will only be 5 panel scores from those friends. Everybody else, we're looking at administrative scores only. And these are the 80 points that we wrote in last year's guidelines. There's going to be 20 on that access and impact survey, 20 on their scope of work. Is it staying about the same as when we looked at it with a panel? Contract compliance, are you turning in your stuff? A lot of organizations will not be receiving full credit on that this year, unfortunately. So we're gonna look at it. Financial stewardship, 20 points. This is what's happening in the management offices of these organizations, and is it continuing to work well? So what's coming in July is I will have a breakout of organizations in each tier. Remember that some organizations may have shifted in size from last year. I will have as close an admin score as possible with a giant asterisk that currently right now it is just me and my lonesome doing these calculations. I was supposed to have an intern, and HR paperwork is real slow. So I will get you as much as I possibly can do in the month of June. But there may be a few categories that I'm not done yet. So I'll get you as much as I got by early July. I'll also give you an estimate of where new organizations would have fallen had everyone had their panel score from last year. So I will take a look at that and give you as close a comparison as I can get. OAC will likely suggest really similar funding amounts for returning organizations as in the past year, as that was one of the points of doing a multi-year funding program. However, we will not have a finalized budget yet. So we will not in July be able to really slice and dice the dollars because I will not have a finalized budget. And I apologize for that. It's not the world's most productive meeting, but you can sort of see where we're gonna go with these numbers and what we're looking at. And usually commissioners do a really great job of giving me directions from there, even though we don't have a full budget. That's all.
And on that note, we're going to talk a little bit later in the agenda today about what makes sense in terms of our summer meetings. And this slide is very germane to that discussion. So keep that in mind, because we want to make sure that we're not wasting anybody's time. And when we have meetings, we meet at a time when we can make decisions or move the ball forward. Is that Commissioner Spellacy?
Yeah, I just wanted to put something on your radar for when you're kind of working through the numbers in meeting with some of my organizations, especially given the budget implications this year. Some of the organizations, when they move from tier to tier, if we keep them flat, it effectively creates a budget cut for them. Like, for instance, one of my groups just moved over $1 million for next year. And that means they're no longer eligible for the Moody Fund. So they've gotten that every year. So when they move over $1 million, even if we keep them flat, they're effectively losing money because they're losing the Moody Fund. And the same thing happens for the groups when they hit, I forget what the number is that they're then required to get an audit done. Is that $500,000 where that comes in, or is that two?
It's 500,000. Yeah.
Okay, so when they move between that tier, if we keep them flat, an audit is a substantial cost for them, like, I think $10,000 to $15,000 sometimes. So I think just something to keep in mind as the groups move between tiers when we're doing their funding.
And thank you, Commissioner Spellacy. That actually happens in every tier for lots of different reasons. Another sort of pressure point is between 5 and 6 or 4 and 5. Do we have 6 or do we have 5? 6. Between 5 and 6. Just looking at the percentages, right? Because if you look down from tier 1 to tier 6, tier 1 organizations are usually getting in the double-digit percentages, but when you look at tier 6, they're getting in a single-digit percentage. That is our goal. But if you go down one tier, So there are several pressure points. So thank you for bringing those to the staff's attention, because it's always important, and to us, because we have the money that we have, but it's good to know the impact on the organizations. Any further comments on the preview of the scoring? Hang on to those thoughts. We're going to talk about dates in a minute. The next item on our agenda is a continued discussion on the findings and recommendations of the City of Dallas internal audit. You guys will remember that I requested, based upon some conversation that I've been hearing and lots of folks talking to me, that we invite the city auditor to come to our full commission meeting to give us more information regarding the audit. And since the scope of the audit was limited to funding programs that are overseen by this committee, I feel like we, the members of this committee, sort of have the most knowledge or exposure to those programs. The audit addressed 3 funding programs, Arts Activate, COP, and CAP. The office advised the auditor's office that a lot of the questions center around the use of hot tax. And of course, those are not used for, those funds are not used for Arts Activate or CAP. So largely the findings that people are expressing concern about fall in the realm of the COP. Chair Small issued the invitation, and the city auditor immediately replied, has been very cooperative in agreeing to come to the meeting, and has met with, you've spoken with her on several occasions.
A couple of times.
So we have that coming in June, and as you might imagine, first of all, thanks to Chair Small, we have super efficient commission meetings now. They don't go till 7:30 or 8 o'clock, and this one won't either. So we want to use the time that we have with the auditor, both with the audit office briefing and with our opportunity to ask questions very efficiently and effectively. So to that end, we are going to provide the auditor with some guidelines about the areas that we are the most concerned. That can be done in the form of specific questions or in the form of kind of a general, hey, here are the areas of the audit that we either don't understand or would like to have more explanation, or respectfully, we're concerned you might have gotten this a little wrong and we want you to hear what we have to say about it. All of those things are appropriate. So I wanted to have a few minutes in this meeting to kind of hear from you all. I will be trying to put something together for Chair Small to send to the audit office. So I'd like to have a little bit of discussion about it. Staff's going to take notes. We're going to work on that. And then after this meeting, because you may or may not have had time, a minute passed between the time I read the audit and the time I made the request, and another minute passed between that and this meeting. So if you feel like that you need a little bit of time to go back and look at the audit to formulate your questions or concerns, you can certainly do that. If you have more questions or things that you want to kind of give the office a heads up so they can be prepared, please have them in by close of business on Friday to the OAC. To the, what is that email? It's our commissioner email.
oaccommissions@dallas.gov.
oaccommission@dallas.gov. Do not copy me. Do not copy any other commissioner. We want to make sure that we abide by all of the Open Meetings Act rules, and we don't inadvertently run afoul of them. So if there's something you want to say outside of this meeting, there's a forum for doing that. Keep it brief, send it to that address, and we'll collate it all and get it to the auditor. To the extent you're wondering, why would we do this in advance? We really want to, the purpose of an audit is to help an organization do its job better. And the purpose of having an opportunity to speak with an auditor is to be sure that there is understanding on both sides about where changes might need to be made or are going to be made. So I've had several people ask me different questions. I don't view this as an adversarial proceeding at all. It's an informational proceeding. And so we want to remember that we're all on the same team, and we want to, having said that, it is totally valid to ask whatever questions that you feel like you need answered, or that you feel like your city council members might want answered, or that you feel like your constituency needs answered. So with that framework, does anybody, would you, oh, yes, Sheriff Small would like to add something
Yeah.
before we start our discussion.
Yeah, I just want to provide a framework and a context for this discussion as well. As an advocate for everything that we do here, you know, my position is that we are in full compliance. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear it? Yeah, my position is that not only are we in full compliance, when you look at the work, just as an example is how Julia presented the way that we're proceeding with the CAP program today. I mean, everything is so not only compliant, but it's fair, it's without bias, and everything is with full cooperation and advice of the city attorney's office. And in addition, it goes above and beyond the requirements, the entire staff and the committee, Julia, Rhonda, all the commissioners, the familiarity, just hearing like Brad Spellacy advocating on behalf of his organization as an example, the familiarity with the organizations allows Rhonda and Julia and the entire program to be administered well beyond, above and beyond what's required, because those intangibles can't be reflected in an audit. Those are intangibles that go to the implementation of all of these processes. And so certainly an audit that doesn't accurately reflect the objective compliance, we certainly want to make sure that that's a beginning of any audit that's put out there. And there were some concerns about some of the processes. And as Mickey said, we want the auditor to also be an advocate for everything that we're doing. So with that being the case, the auditor coming to the commission meeting on the 18th accepted the invitation with the understanding that before then, give her an idea as to what some of those concerns are. So with that being the case, we'd like to whittle those down and make sure that we give them to the auditor so that when she does come on the 18th, she'll know exactly what the concerns are, can address it.
So, Commissioner Spellacy.
Okay, so I have a number of questions I would like them to answer. And I'll start off by saying I did read the entire audit report, as hopefully most of us have. And if you haven't, definitely do it before the meeting. So my first question would be, number one, did they check with any of our peer cities in the process of doing this audit to find out what our peer cities do and the level of compliance and things like that our peer cities are doing? And what are our peer cities doing to, especially for the hot tax, how are they, making sure that the spend on hot tax is in compliance with state law? My second question is, exactly how did they get their interpretation of that law? Because they did provide a number of examples in the audit. Only one of them actually had an arts group as part of it, which was the ones with, what was it, Texans for the Arts? Was that who was on? It was the co-done one with the hotel association and I think it was Texans for the Arts. And when I read that, it did not specifically talk about heads in beds as being a metric. And they specifically did say that is a metric that they are looking for in the audit report. And there's a memorandum of understanding from, remind me who that was put out by. Was it put out by the city attorney's office or?
The MOU that's in the hot tax toolkit?
Yeah. Who was that put out by?
It's I don't know the answer. I do know the answer, but I don't feel confident in the answer. But
okay, well, my question is
paragraph of the MOU.
Yeah, and my question is, why was that not used as one of their examples, as part of their
Metrics.
audit? And two, why are they using a metric that is very specifically kind of in that MOU discussed as not being a metric that needs to be used for the arts for a number of different reasons? My third question is, they very specifically in the audit are asking for receipts, et cetera, et cetera. That puts a huge burden, number one, on the arts groups to, like, number one, keep track and submit all that stuff. And number two, on the staff at OAC to then receive all of that and go through all of it. And that's not something that's ever been done before, specific receipts, right? So what is that what they're looking for? They weren't exactly explicit in it, but it seemed fairly explicit that that's what they were looking for, was payroll and receipts and how this grant is specifically being spent. And so my question is, I'd like a little more specificity on what exactly they would like to see as far as that part of the compliance. And then the next question is for the grant programs. Well, number one, hot tax only applies to COP, right? But they were talking about all three, and not even all the COP orgs, just some of them.
I'll interrupt you just a second.
Yeah,
Brad. Yes, in the sense that, I mean, an argument could be made that some Arts Activate programs could be eligible, or at least I've heard that argument put forth, but the office is already erring on the side of caution with that respect. And from the OAC standpoint, hot taxes are only money from hot is only allocated to COP programs. So
Okay.
it's not so much that Arts Activate isn't eligible for it, but we don't even get into that.
Right. I'm saying we don't spend it on that.
Right. That's right. 100%.
It's not spent on that. So really the only one that really has to be proven that it is in compliance with the state law would be certain COP groups. So my last question is in regards to when they were discussing where they felt like that the office didn't keep enough proof that the services that are being contracted are being done the way that they said they were being done. My question to them is, what are they looking for that? Like, are they wanting an OAC staff member to attend every single event that is put on, paid for by a grant in order to prove that that event happened? I mean, there's no way that's feasible or even normal. So my question is, what are they looking for that? Like we're already asking the groups to provide reports and attendance numbers and things like that, and we're given invitations to all these events. So ostensibly, if an event didn't happen, we would definitely hear about it. But my question is, what are they looking for in order to prove that all these events are being done as stated in the reports, given back by the artists? I think that's all I have for right this.
If you don't mind, Brad, I'm going to add to that question, but I'm going to kind of loop that around with your initial question. And on this particular topic, what are peer cities doing, and did you look at it? Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, any other?
Commissioner Valentine.
Yes, Commissioner Valentine.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I want to recognize Commissioner Spelisi's questions and comments. I appreciate them. And I'm going to reserve the questions I have because I understand you're going to collate some of this, and there's certainly some overlaps that I have. So I'll just ensure that I'll send an email along by the deadline of tomorrow. Is that right? To the OAC email.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions, any comments, any thoughts that you want to share? Even if you want to send an email with your questions, there's some merit to the sort of opportunity for us. This is the only place that we can discuss this, right? Once you leave this room, it's just got to be a direct communication to OAC, and then we'll collate those. So it's totally valid for this body to have a discussion about this. Commissioner Daniel.
Yeah, I'll just say you all have hit on a lot of the things that were my questions. I generally do want to have an understanding of what assumptions, and what assumptions were made. I don't know if this is the right way to phrase this, but what assumptions were made, or were there any assumptions that were made at the start of the process that got them to a place of understanding the way that they did? Like, was there context provided prior to them starting this audit process, or was it just like, here are a bunch of documents, look at them, and then come to your conclusion? Because if there was no context and there's no understanding of the program, then things end up looking weird to those that are to the uninitiated, if you will.
So I'm going to ask Julia to provide you a little bit of context on that, and then Chair Small has something he wants to add.
Glenn and Rhonda and I sat down with these auditors for 2 straight days to walk through programs. They basically pulled 10 examples of each program, and we pulled out all that we had about those programs, and did our best to understand each other.
Commissioner.
Oh,
Sure.
I was just going to say that Damani's question is a fantastic question, because the way that they receive the information, certainly, yeah, that maybe that there's something to be clarified in there. Because in looking, once again, I think Brad's questions pretty much surmise everything that we've been wondering about this audit. And Damani's question is kind of a new look at it, because that may help get us to a point of clarification on both sides. I think it's a.
So just to sort of talk on that a little bit, depending on what opportunity you've had to speak with the office about the audit, you may have heard some of the information about what the process was before we got to the audit report. And other than the fact that they are all working so hard right now and have very little time, folks in the office are always willing to talk to a commissioner to answer questions. But I'm very glad you brought that up, Commissioner Daniel, because there's value in speaking to the office and in the information that Julia has given us about context, but there's an even bigger value, I think, in asking that question directly of the folks who prepared the audit. So I think that is a really relevant and important question, not only to get an answer, but also to communicate our feelings and concern that all of this be done in a way that is best for the artists and arts organizations in the city. So,
thank you. And if I might, I can think, for me, it's that, I like I tell my team, assume positive intent, right?
Right.
We understandably are frustrated by the audit that went out because we know that it doesn't reflect the true nature of the work that we do every month. Like, we know this. The media got a hold of it, and obviously there's sensationalism. But if we're going back to the assume positive intent, that on some level they want to do right by the city, they want to do right by the citizens of the city. And so that's why I'm like, okay, but where did you start with this? Like, because if you started from a place where the glasses were dirty, then everything that you see through those glasses is going to be dirty. And so, like, let's peel back a couple of layers and figure out, what do you actually believe? What's the bias that you went into this with? Not in a derogatory sense, but what's the bias that impacted how we got to where we are?
So sure, Chair Small.
Yeah, and Commissioner Daniel, just to comment on what you're saying, and to incorporate that with the concerns that Spellacy has surmised on behalf of all the commissioners, if they're looking at this in the lens of the hot tax and everything is based on heads in beds, that's not a way that we keep records. there's no way to deliver heads and beds information. So if we could clarify that.
I'm gonna ask you to add in your opinion to that statement.
Well, based upon,
No, I'm being,
Yeah.
I'm talking about representations that are being made.
yeah, well, I hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
A way for us to measure heads and bed, we haven't, that's not a metric that we judge the success of our cultural arts programs only. I mean, it may be a factor, but it's not a sole factor. But if it can be determined.
Well, but it's also not really even fully measured by Visit Dallas. Like Visit Dallas doesn't actually measure the number of heads and beds. They have an equation that they use based on total attendance, based on reported, let me rephrase, based on
Exactly.
reported attendance at an event that fits within their criteria. Based on that formula, they then say, you had 25,000 people come to your event, you probably had X number of heads and beds, but there is no justification for that ever given.
And whether you even get to that as a metric or the only metric by which the appropriate spending of hot tax can be measured. Brad, I see your hand. Before I go to you, I would like to have hear your thoughts about a question that has been sort of bubbling in my head, and it goes back to the media. You know, there's a difference between the audit report and the media reporting on the audit report, but often an organization, when media coverage gets out there and an organization feels like that coverage does not fairly represent the story, they take steps to ask for retraction or clarification or things of that nature. That's not for us to do because it's not a report about our actions. But I am somewhat interested to know what just the audit office feeling is about the media reporting and whether any steps have been taken to try to get more accurate information about the audit findings out to the public. But I'm not sure how I feel about asking that question, and I would be interested in hearing what my fellow commissioners think.
I mean, what media control are they?
Well, they don't have media control. Nobody has media control, but you know, when I was working in public relations, if a story got out on one of my clients that was completely inaccurate, we had steps that we took to say, hey, you know, you got this wrong. And sometimes they do something about it, sometimes they don't. I have some interest in whether the City of Dallas Audit Office believes that was inaccurate reporting, because it feels like to me, I've read the audit and I've read the story, and the story does not fairly represent I have some questions about the audit, and then there's the media coverage of the audit, which I don't think the media coverage accurately reflects what's said in the audit. So, but I don't know if that's an appropriate topic to talk to them about. I would be interested to know whether, you know, any steps were taken to try to, I mean, well, no, nothing happened in the media, but that portion of all of this is very concerning to me, because I feel very strongly as a commissioner, my obligation to the public, and want them to, all of the good things that Chair Small said. So I'll stop talking. If anybody wants to tell me your thoughts on that, please feel free. But I saw Commissioner Spellacy's hand went up first, and then after that, Commissioner Daniel. And by the way, whether you're officially on this committee or not, you can be recognized to speak. So if you are not an official committee member, but you are a commissioner and you would like to speak, I will recognize you.
Okay, so first I'll answer your question. To me, it's probably not worth asking them about the media story, just because to me, the media story did somewhat summarize what I thought the audit report said. I mean, it left a lot of stuff out and there was no like details, but I feel like the biggest issue for me is the audit report itself. And that it's based on some interpretations and assumptions that I don't think are completely accurate, or that put an undue burden that probably is not necessary in order to prove compliance.
Well,
so that's my answer to your question.
Yeah, what I'm speaking to, Brad, is not so much the part on the hot tax, but the statement that like $5 million worth of hot taxes or something along those lines unaccounted for. And it's not that they were unaccounted for, It's that that portion of the OAC's hot spending was not the subject of the audit. It's a scope of audit question. And if I were an auditor and a story went to the press that said, you know, I mean, the first thing I would say is, oh, wait a minute, it's not that 5 million is unaccounted for. It's that was outside of the scope of the audit. So I agree with you that I don't have as many troubles with the reporting of what the particular thing they audited. But anyway, you were going to add another point.
Yeah. My additional question actually to them, well, I have two. One is like an actual question, is just what prompted the audit? Was it just a random audit, like, because that's what they do? Or was there a specific allegation made to the auditor's office that they decided they needed to look into? Or, you know, what prompted the audit? I have that question.
For some reason, I think it was just the time for the audit, but we'll try to get the answer to you before the meeting on that, because if there's a simple answer, then we wouldn't want to pose that question. But if it was a decision made from the auditor, okay, yeah, we can find that out.
The other thing I wanted to ask is about, in the follow-up to the audit, I know that there was a series of questions received from the auditor in the city of Austin, and that the city auditor's office provided answers which were not entirely accurate, is my understanding. And so to me, can we ask about that or not? Because to me, what it points to is if the answers to those questions were not accurate, that means that the auditor's office's understanding of those items was not accurate when producing this report. And so that's where my concern lies. And in addition to obviously giving incorrect information to another city's office, we would hope that we would be providing accurate information. But the bigger issue for me is if those answers were not accurate, then that means they don't know the correct, accurate information, and they just produced an entire report on this. So
you're generally speaking, more than a question would be whether it would be appropriate to ask for information or a briefing regarding any communications made to other peer cities from our audit office, kind of a more general question.
Yeah, I think, well, that would be my question, and I don't know how.
Chair Small would like to be recognized.
Yeah, I'll address that. Commissioner Spellacy, I think that's going to be outside the scope of what we agreed she's coming to speak on. We can ask the question, but basically, we're talking about this, the OAC audit.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
respectfully, I think at a public meeting, once she's on the agenda, we can
ask
whatever we want.
Yeah.
So I am adding that to the list. We'll evaluate that and see if there's any reason that we can't include that. But if we're going to include it, it would be in our advance notice to them.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I also don't know how public some of that information was.
Right.
Like, was the request public? Were the answers publicly available? Was the information that OAC then provided in response to the auditor's answers that they sent over to the city of Austin to correct the original answers, was that all publicly available? That's my question. Is
I've just typed in generally audit office communications to peer cities representing OAC funding programs related to hot taxes. Okay. I think it's better. My thought is that perhaps the best way to get to that is with a very general question as opposed to any sort of specifics about communications.
I just don't want to open it up to, I want to make sure that within the time of our meeting, our main concerns are addressed.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioner Daniel, you were next, but Commissioner Jackson also has her hand up and we haven't heard from her yet. Could we let her go first? Thank you. Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I was simply going to say that I agree with you with actually, frankly, just about everything that my fellow commissioners have said so far in terms of the questions. I also want to say that I do agree that asking them, I think, is a fair question in regards to what the auditor's perspective is or what they understand was stated and said in the article versus, you know, what they are intended to represent. And in a sense, the article misrepresents, and it feels inflammatory. And I don't, you know, news media these days can be very provocative. So that seems like going unanswered is not appropriate, I think.
Thank you. Commissioner Daniel.
Thank you. I was actually going to say, I don't, yes to all the questions being asked, but to the media part of it, I feel like our bigger issue is the report that went out, right? The media latched on to the report that went out. And then this got quickly swept up in all of the other things happening in the building where you currently sit, right? And so part of me is looking at this as like, do we need to bring it back up and tell the communications office or whomever to like go and ask for retractions or ask for adjustments to a story that people have forgotten about? I don't know that we do. I think that we need to get it fixed so that things like this don't happen in the future. But I think that there are far bigger things at play right now. And us poking our head up and being like, well, you got it wrong. And I'm being hyperbolic and facetious, right? But you got it wrong, fix it. Because we want to make sure that it's right out in the public eye. Is just going to elevate it again, especially in a time when people are going, I feel like people are going to look at it and be like, oh, it's wrong, with all that people are perceiving right now about how finances are flowing and what is happening at City Hall with things that are like cultural. Like, I don't know that it's worth it to go and ask the media or to get to the media that we want to see a retraction, an adjustment, or correction, because that'll just reopen the conversation.
That actually wasn't what I wanted to ask for a retraction, but yes, thank you. I agree with that. Commissioner Trezilla, and then I think after Commissioner Trezilla, we're going to wrap this up because we're already at 5:41 and we're not quite finished with our agenda. This is a really, truly important issue. Thank you, everybody, for your input. And please, if you think of specific questions or topics, if you would just email before close of business tomorrow. Commissioner Trezilla.
Just real quick, from a PR perspective, that's what I do for a living. I agree 100% with Commissioner Daniel. Thank you.
Okay.
One point.
No, you have already spoken 3 times. I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
But it kind of goes to that. It goes, it's exactly what you're
giving you a hard
saying.
time.
And that is, I actually, in discussing our agenda for the meeting, we're going on this particular subject, so it doesn't keep going round and around like Mickey's just joking about here. We will probably implement either like a 5-3-1 or a 3-2-1 type comment from commissioners.
Yes. Thank you. For those of you who've been on the commission as long as Commissioner Trezilla and I, that used to be very typical. I mean, we were in a different room and you had 3 rounds and you could talk very much like the city council. And for something that is this, it's very important and significant, but it also is a topic, that you could spend a lot of time talking about. So thank you for that. I think that's really important. Okay, we are going to move on at this point. Again, not trying to cut anybody off. Please be sure and send anything in. We really want to be able to, what my goal is as your chair is for the auditor to be able to come and give us their briefing and the questions to be asked, and for us to not hear from that table, oh gosh, we're happy to answer that, but we can't answer it because we didn't come prepared. So that is our primary goal. We want to be sure that we get the information and everybody, you may agree or disagree, but that we walk away feeling like we've been given the information. Okay, believe it or not, we are not finished with the agenda yet. So we are going to move on to staff updates, which was Julia who had to leave. And Chair Small, do you have to depart?
Yes.
Okay, before you do, I just wanted to quickly recognize that Chair Small very seldom misses a meeting, but he missed the last meeting because his new name is Granddad. So big congratulations. His first grandson was born during the day of our allocations committee meeting.
That's right, that's right.
So thank you for being here, Chair.
So,
Did Julie leave you with anything?
Yeah, I have some notes.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. I'm not Julia. I'm Adriana, but that's
On her
okay.
last day.
Yes. Speaking of last days, today is my last day until I go, and I'm going on maternity leave. I won't be back till October. So very, very excited. And also I'm having a C-section and he will be born at the next ACAC meeting. So he's gonna be born at 12:30 and you guys will be meeting at 4:30. So y'all will be meeting on my birthday. So exciting. I'll make sure if I'm in a lucid state of mind, I'll make sure to text Glenn and Drea to let them know that everything's okay and
Pictures.
and some pictures, and then you can just do like a little clap for me and have me in your thoughts and in prayers that day. But that's enough on me. Some updates we have is that Culture of Value is open. On May 26th it opened. So we're accepting applications for them now. CAP opened on June 2nd, so this past Monday, and is receiving applications. Arts Activate opens for round 1 on June 16th. Drea, can you make the slide that I'm looking at real quick? Thank you. And we, Drea, I think you had a comment about the July allocations meeting,
And that's
right?
actually me.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so our regular July meeting would be July 4th. We are not going to meet then. We sometimes roll it to the next week, which I think is July 11th. I will not be in town, but more importantly, Julia and I were speaking, and based upon this whole thing with the numbers and where she's going to be, sometimes that July meeting is not, we can't move the ball forward because we're not ready yet with all the numbers. So what we need to kind of examine is, could we meet later in July, or, we often meet twice in August. And when I wish I had done this while Julia was still here. But one of her comments to me in our prep meeting was, we could just do the 2 August meetings that we often do, because the July meeting I'm not quite ready in July. So kind of like to hear from you rapidly, how you would feel about a later in July, or just going and plan up front for 2 meetings in August, like whatever it is, the first week and the second week, or we do have an extra week in July available to us because the full commission doesn't meet in July. So we could meet on the 16th or the 23rd or the 30th and give Julia a little more time to be really prepared for us. Or we could meet at our regular August, am I doing that right? Our regular August 6th meeting, and then plan on having another meeting before the commission.
As Chair, if we need a little bit of time to look at calendars, Drea can also send out an email.
Yeah, so,
with
yeah,
these
rather than
dates.
have a discussion now, we might just send out kind of a doodle poll, but the thought is, we're definitely not meeting July 4th, or whatever is that what my calendar's be, yes,
That'd be
it would be July 2nd.
Yeah.
But we're definitely not gonna meet July 2nd, because that's the 4th of July weekend, plus nobody will be ready.
Yeah.
We won't, that's the only big thing on the agenda. The 9th might still be a little bit too soon to be ready. So we may be looking at meeting later in July, or 2 meetings in August. I'll talk to Drea. We'll get something out to you. When you get that, please weigh in and we'll let you know when that meeting's gonna be. Let's see.
We'll
Okay.
get that together.
What else do we have on the
And
agenda?
another update that we have, because I know Blaze and Trizilla are here, and this is their last allocations meeting. Because they're going
Blaze
to
left.
roll off on the 30th of this month. So they'll be here still for commission, but Trizilla won't be able to be here for our next July meeting.
Oh,
Oh, no, and thank you. I was going to say something at the end. I've been on allocations for 3/4 of my time on the commission. And I will say each year it gets better and better and better. And you guys have just been a delight. And you're thorough, you look at things, you read. It's exactly what the city of Dallas needs. So I commend you. I wish you all the luck. I'm actually moving to Richardson. So I will no longer be a city of Dallas resident, but I hope to get involved in the Richardson arts when I'm there. But thank you all, and I will for sure see you all around and of course on social media. So thank you.
Joe, on behalf of the entire committee, thank you. Your service has been invaluable and we are going to miss you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson, your hand is up. Is it still up from before or did you have?
It was,
Oh, she lowered it. It might have been from before.
Okay, yes.
And then also,
oh, it's still muted.
You have the floor.
No, I was saying that it was up from before, but I was wishing Commissioner Truzillo well,
Thank you.
as well as Blaze. Commissioner Blaze had to leave to go to a meeting.
but she was on for most of it. Some other updates that Julia has on this slide is that August 6th, we're going to vote to recommend the CAP 2027 allocation. So in that August meeting, and then September 10th, depending on the holiday, will be the meeting to recommend Arts Activate 2027 round 1 and COP 2027 funding. So y'all have a lot going on in the next couple of months forecasted. A very, very busy committee.
So because we've run so late, does anybody have anything pressing that you want to call to the committee's attention? Okay, we will get to you on the July dates. Thank you for the input on the audit meeting or the auditor's presentation. I want to take, under my update, I want to tell you two quick things. One is, remember if you're getting calls from Arts Activate recipients, or more importantly, folks who've been turned down for Arts Activate grants, that when they've been turned down twice, they can request a meeting and a scorecard, and they should do that. I don't know about you guys, but with 145 applicants and 40-something receiving awards, I'm getting a lot of calls. So please, they would have gotten an email either from Catherine or Kayla, and they should respond to it and set up a meeting, and you can sit in on that meeting if you're so inclined. So that's really important for our committee. Something that is not necessarily our committee, but since I have your attention all as arts people, I received a plea recently from some of the folks who are organizers of the Crystal Charity Ball for more arts organizations to apply, to which I responded, nobody does that because your application is too big and you don't award arts organizations. And I was told by this year's chair, that's because we get 45 applications and only 1 or 2 arts organizations. So the perception is we don't fund them because they don't get all the way through. So in your advocacy out there among, particularly as we see the city funding not expand, when your arts organizations are looking for other funding, if they are a nonprofit in Dallas that serves children, that is a source of funding that is being encouraged. So, so think about that with your arts organizations. And that is all that I have. Does anybody have anything else? Okay, all business before this committee being concluded, I call it to a close at 5:54 p.m. Everybody have a great evening and a wonderful weekend. And stay out of the FIFA traffic.
It is intense, that FIFA traffic.
Oh, man. Oh, that was interesting.